President Kamala Harris is heading to two battleground states today with her new running mate, Minnesota's Governor Tim Walz.
The now official Democratic ticket trying to shore up the so-called blue wall of states as Republicans highlight Mr. Walz's ultra-progressive track record and the gushing endorsement from far-left Senator Bernie Sanders.
That's always welcome. Doug Luzader is live in Washington with the details. Hey, Doug.
Good morning. Harris and Walz are out on the trail today with the new VP pick saying they will sleep when they're dead. And for her part, Harris says this is an uphill battle.
We are the underdogs in this race, but we have the momentum, and I know exactly what we are up against.
And I just have to say it. You know it, you feel it. These guys are creepy, and yes, just weird as hell.
And from Walz, that is the personal attack line that's galvanized many Democrats. As for his selection, he apparently won over Harris in recent days and eclipsed another top contender, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. And while Shapiro could have helped deliver Pennsylvania, that is a critical swing state, his moderate positions and his support for Israel drew fire from many on the far left, and there were concerns that he would overshadow Harris. And contrast that with what Walz told Harris, according to Politico. I'm at the end of my career. This is not about me. This is about America's working families, Walz told Harris and the vetting team, again, according to Politico. Now, Harris is betting that Walz can make a difference on the campaign trail. And look at the states that the new team is hitting, especially today, Michigan and Wisconsin, upper Midwest states that could be critical in this year's election. And shadowing them through a number of those states will be Republican VP nominee J.D. Vance. He'll be meeting with police today in Michigan and workers in Wisconsin. And despite Harris's pretty aggressive campaign schedule in coming days, there are still no plans that we know of for a sit-down interview or a press conference, the kinds of interactions she has carefully avoided since launching her bid for the White House.
What would you know about keeping your promises? You never keep your promises. You never do anything you say you're going to do, ever.
Boom! It's like, okay, well, good. Since Donald Trump is somebody who actually saved Christmas, and since Donald Trump is somebody who actually helped Kevin McAllister, remember, in Home Alone 2, Donald Trump saved Christmas. Not only can we say Merry Christmas again, Donald Trump saved Christmas, ladies and gentlemen. Donald Trump helped Kevin McAllister find the front desk. We all saw it in the documentary known as Home Alone 2 Lost in New York, okay? So I am pro Kevin McAllister memes. I am pro Kevin McAllister cold opens. I hope we do an entire week of Donald Trump, Kevin McAllister Home Alone themed cold opens, and let's rock and roll. Today is Wednesday, August 7th, 2024. Trump vows to debate Kamala Harris. Well, this was very interesting. A little bit of a lover's quarrel between the two of these. What will happen? Will it be on Fox News? Will it be on ABC News with Slopodopoulos, as Donald Trump calls him? We'll check in and see. I certainly want it to happen. I am team make Kamala debate. I am team Trump Kamala debates. I am. Some people are against it. We're going to ask one of Donald Trump's, Donald Trump's top advisor and one of the smartest people in the Trump orbit, Stephen Miller, about it today. Stephen Miller will join the show. And a squad member loses her seat. Is socialism rising or falling in America? Well, squad members are dropping like flies. And just like flies, they are attracted to yucky stuff. And that is exactly what socialism is. Socialism turns your country to... Try not to swear on the program, ladies and gentlemen, but you can fill in the blank. Donald Trump says it a lot. My name is Benny Johnson, and this is The Benny Show. Okay, what's up? We are going to rock and roll today. We're going to talk to you about the news. Tim Walz making his waltzing appearance onto the national stage yesterday at a very cringe rally with Kamala Harris, where he played like a Muppet. Essentially, like the guy has the body habitus of Don Rickles, and he's like a Muppet character behind Kamala Harris. It's like when a rapper has like their boys behind them to be like, yeah, like you'll see it all. We have a bunch of clips, very, very weird. But instead of like a rapper and trying to like flex, he does look very much like a Muppet. He's like super goofy. We're not quite sure what to make of it. We know the guy is a wild-eyed, absolute bloody radical, that he lived in communist China, that he's visited communist China every year since 1996, that this guy, like, effectively in his speech last night, proliferated conspiracy theories and lies about J.D. Vance, and J.D. Vance is responding. How do we find our news about Tim Walz? We go to Ground News, ladies and gentlemen. Ground News is an awesome app that we use on this program. Kamala Harris selects Minnesota Governor Walz as a running mate. So here's what you can do. You can see with Ground News the bias of distribution for this article, where this article is going, and the angles of these articles. It's very, very interesting because Kamala Harris is entirely running on the sugar high of the corporate press, like shoving as much high fructose corn syrup into the bloodstream of Democrat voters. An important reminder that just a few months ago, like in May, there are clips of CNN anchors being like, Joe Biden should dump Kamala from the ticket. Kamala Harris is the most unpopular vice president in history. And now suddenly she's queen, slay queen. Yes, quite slay queen. No, man. It's nuts. But what Ground News allows you to do is to see where the conversations are happening, the bias distribution of the conversations, and base that on the bias of the publications. That's my favorite part about this. So you can see what true bias in media is. And I say this often, and it is very important to note. The bias is in what you report. It's in how you report it, yes, but it's in choosing which stories to tell. And the media is choosing to tell these like fake Kamala narratives, and Ground News helps you actually see through it all. You, ladies and gentlemen, should go and scan the QR code on your screen right now. And that offer gets you 40% off for the Vantage plan, which I use. Ladies and gentlemen, you should go to Ground News and check out their incredible product here. We use it literally daily on the show when we're putting the show together. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's rock and roll. Donald Trump saying he's going to debate Kamala Harris. Now, you know my thoughts on this. My thoughts were Kamala Harris has no right to debate. I put this up on X. I think it's really important. Kamala is sitting here doing this like sort of boom clap thing against Donald Trump. Like, you agreed to a debate with Joe Biden, so you should also debate me. And I got to tell you, you're gonna hear something right now that I've never said on the show. Joe Biden deserves respect for debating, okay? Because what Joe Biden did was something Kamala Harris has never done, which Joe Biden won, and albeit rigged, but Joe Biden won a primary, meaning Democrats literally went in and they physically voted for Joe Biden. The end. That is what happened. You may disagree with those votes. You may think that's insane, but Joe Biden did win the Democratic primary competition, as rigged as it was, in 2020 and 2024. He has also run for president like 16 times. So Joe Biden ran for president, won the primary, and people literally went in and voted for his name. Nobody's ever done that for Kamala. Kamala Harris ran the cringiest campaign. Get me Kamala bus. Kamala Harris ran the cringiest campaign in 2020. She was supposed to have this like Obama. The media did the same thing they're doing right now. They know how to flip the trigger on Kamala. She had this extreme like sugar high, like Ritalin-induced sugar high fructose corn syrup, like all like sugar rush from the corporate press to like say, wow, hype her as the next Obama, boom clap, Kamala Harris, let's go. And then it died, right? People got to know her, people got to see her on the trail, and they're like, okay, none of that. So that it collapsed. She didn't even make it to Iowa in 2020. She came in 5th in her home state of California, where she's supposedly really popular. Really, she came in 5th? Didn't get a single delegate at the Democratic National Convention. Now contrast that with Donald Trump, who, of course, as we all watched, went through a bloody primary process in 2016. Won the presidency in 2016 against like the machine of all machines, the Clinton machine, totally and completely fused with the corporate press against President Trump. The Washington Post publishing on the day of the election, Donald Trump's chances of becoming president are approaching 0. I have that paper. It's not hanging in the studio. I have it. Donald Trump wins. Then Donald Trump wins again in 2020. Gets hundreds of millions of Americans have voted for Donald Trump for president, have cast ballots. At least tens of millions of Republicans have cast ballots for Donald Trump in primary processes in all states. Donald Trump is a legitimate leader. He is a legitimate presidential candidate. Kamala Harris is an illegitimate presidential candidate because no one has voted for her. No one has cast their ballots for her. No one has selected her to be the party's nominee. She became the party's nominee by an elitist group run by Barack Obama that decided to anoint her and say F you to the Democrat primary process by kicking out Joe Biden. Now, you may say this is all planned. I'm going to have to see that come out in the wash. I'm not sure how planned it all was, but it certainly was accelerated by a debate with Donald Trump. This plan of kicking Joe off the ballot got a single accelerant, which was Donald Trump, then get Biden COVID, right? Or whatever horrible thing happened to him. Looking terrible. By the way, where's Joe Biden? You seen him? Like sleeping in a casket? Where's Joe Biden? In the White House? Like mummified? The hell is he? But a debate with Donald Trump sent him over the edge. Kamala Harris does not deserve Donald Trump's respect and deserves 0 respect because she was not selected by the people at all. She was not elected, she was selected. So that's why I don't like the parlay between the two, because they're not the same. One of these things is not like the other. One of these things doesn't belong. And what doesn't belong is the fact that Donald Trump was actually legitimately elected by the people, and hundreds of millions of Americans have cast their votes for Donald Trump, and no one has ever cast their vote for Kamala Harris. No one. She didn't win a debate. She didn't win a primary process. The only thing we've seen from her on the trail have been these two things, all right? These two things. One, Kamala Harris has decided to show everybody her bus. Oh my, here we go.
Oh my God, I love it. Oh wow. Wheels on the bus, go round and round.
And the last thing that Kamala Harris got to do was also show us something else about buses, which is that she could use a bus to bludgeon Joe Biden into the Stone Age by saying that Joe Biden is such an evil, vindictive racist that he prevented her from going to school because he was against busing. Here we go.
Believe, and it's personal, and I was actually it was hurtful to hear you talk about the reputations of 2 United States senators who built their reputations and career on the segregation of race in this country. And it was not only that, but you also worked with them to oppose busing. And, you know, there was a little girl in California who was part of the 2nd class to integrate her public schools. And she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me.
Ooh, wow. Has anyone asked Kamala Harris why she worked for that evil racist that didn't want her to go to school because of her skin color? That said you can't vote for him if you're not the right skin color. Anybody ever asked those questions of Joe Biden? Really? Donald Trump one time says Kamala Harris is a faker who uses her fake accents and heritage to her advantage depending on the group she talks to, which is demonstrably true because you can see it. You've seen it. Vivek's talked about it. Like, we had Harmeet Dillon on who knows Kamala Harris, and she tells all these stories about Kamala Harris. Like, she's everything to everyone, right? And and they lose their minds over that thing. And Joe Biden's out here stopping Kamala Harris from going to school because he doesn't like her skin color. That's what Kamala said. Don't come for me. Joe Biden's out here calling Barack Obama a clean black man. Don't come for me. That's what he said. You can't eat at Dunkin' Donuts without an Indian accent. That's what Joe Biden said. We don't have the time to play you all the clips. This is what the dude said. And nobody in the media ever called Joe Biden racist. No one. No one ever started an interview by saying, why can't you go to a 7-Eleven without a slight Indian accent to Joe Biden? Those are the exact words. A reminder, Joe Biden did also strangle Corn Pop with a rusty chain, okay? Because he had too much pomade in his hair when he was a lifeguard. Again, a story of Joe Biden. I know. Tales from the weird. But there we are. Donald Trump. They'll go after Trump. Okay, fine. What happened to Kamala Harris last time she was in a debate? And somebody actually came for her. Oh, no. Well, this is quite the role reversal. Tulsi Gabbard ended Kamala Harris's I remember where I was when I was watching this clip. I was in California, actually, filming a documentary. I remember where I was because this was so savage. Kamala Harris dropped out after this clip. Watch.
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Harris.
So now that same person who we can play clip after clip after clip of her being incapable of coming up with, we do the entire show just kind of like off the top of our head, right? We read a lot of news. We pretty much don't sleep. We consume news and make content all day. Publish these massive documentaries. We just little engine keeps running, right? Little engine that could. But Kamala Harris, without a teleprompter, can't answer a question. We don't have the next 7 hours to play. It was Stephen Miller's joining the show in 10 minutes, so we don't have the next 7 hours to play these clips. But she can't do it. She's not capable of doing it. And so I don't know, man. Seems like quite a bet. Kamala Harris is demanding a debate with Donald Trump, but demanding it on her terms. Again, Kamala Harris is the person who wasn't elected. She's illegitimately installed. Donald Trump is the person who should be setting the terms of the debate. This weekend, Donald Trump said, I want to do a debate on Fox News with a live audience. It can be in an arena in Pennsylvania. Whew, that would be awesome. Do you remember Donald Trump? Only Rosie O'Donnell. I don't think we have that clip, right? Okay, no. Only Rosie, that's fine. Only Rosie O'Donnell. Right? That was inside of an arena in Cleveland. I was there. I was in the front row. And it was the room just roared, right? The curtain opened, it gets torn from, this is the moment. Donald Trump can really play those arenas. That's what Donald Trump wanted. Kamala Harris wanted Donald Trump to stick to the schedule he agreed to with Joe Biden. You changed the human being. That's not how any of this works. You changed the human being. That means Donald Trump, it's not like he agreed to it. I have a beautiful wife. I love my wife. We have a bunch of kids together. I've been married to my wife for 7 years. On occasion, very rare, on occasion, we get a chance to go on a date. Very rare. On occasion. I take my wife out to a date. I say, meet me at this restaurant. I go to the restaurant, and instead of my wife being there, it's Gorlock the Destroyer. Or Dylan Mulvaney. Right? Or Cori Bush, because she just lost her race. She has nothing else to do. And I'll say, record scratch. Sorry, you're not my wife. And since you swapped the person, the date is off. Okay? That's how this works. You're not my wife. Right? So you changed the person I'm going on a date with, therefore the date's off. Pretty important, right? When two people decide to go on a date. Got it? So Kamala Harris is being like, no! You do the same thing! If we just changed the person and you need to debate me. Well, let's see. Donald Trump this morning is saying that he's gonna do a debate. Okay, let's go. Donald Trump on the debate this morning. She's not a good debater, but we're probably going to do it. Let's go.
I hear she's hasn't taken one interview. She would never do an interview like this. That I can guarantee with any network. She doesn't do interviews because she can't answer questions. I don't know how she debates. I heard she's sort of a nasty person, but not a good good debater. But we'll see, because we'll be debating her, I guess, in the pretty near future. It's going to be announced fairly soon, but we'll be debating her. I'd like to see it on Fox, by the way. I would like to see it. My preference would be Fox, but we have to debate.
Do you have an announcement, Mr. Are you working stuff out behind the scenes? Because we haven't heard about it yet.
No, but I can tell you every network loves me very much right now. They love me very much. I've never been so loved by CBS and by ABC fake news. And by NBC. No, they're all in love with me now, so that, I say yes, because it's up to me, obviously, also.
But, on the debate,
the most important thing is we get debate. I think debates are very important, and I think she'll be exposed just like Biden was exposed. Nobody knew Biden was that bad, and then he was exposed during the debate, and they tried to have a series of comebacks after that, and they didn't work out too well, and they viciously overthrew him. I mean, he was overthrown in it, using every trick in the book. They overthrew him. It was pretty amazing, actually.
So Donald Trump says that he will debate, and it'll be announced soon. What does that mean? What does it mean? Will President Trump be debating on Fox? It's very interesting. Donald Trump talking about the debate. What was planned was a debate with ABC News. Donald Trump is suing ABC News and George Stephanopoulos, as he says. George Stephanopoulos famously said Joe Biden couldn't serve another 4 years when he was caught on sort of a hot mic undercover camera on the street. Interesting that. Let's listen.
The debate, just to close this up, you're in litigation with George Stephanopoulos on ABC. So there's right, and the judge says, the suit's going to go forward. So how could you go on ABC, especially if he's going to be one of the moderators?
Well, you could use that as an excuse. I could use that. I've said that. Is there a conflict? And, there might be George Slopadopoulos, and he's got problems, and, they've got problems. But if they're going to have I guess David Muir is going to be the host in that case. You have all the hosts are pretty much named, and you have Brett and Martha, and they're great. And I'd love to see it on Fox, but, it takes two to tango.
Well, maybe you get two. Maybe you get two debates.
She doesn't want to debate. Look, she doesn't want to debate. She wants to say, I don't want to debate, but I do want to debate. When it came to Biden, I accepted everything. I accepted Jake Tapper. I accepted everything because he didn't want to debate. After I accepted everything, the only thing I said, let's stand up. They wanted to sit down at a desk. I said, that's not going to look so great. So I said, but I accepted everything. And pretty much that's the way I do it right now because I want to debate her. I think it's important for the country that we debate. Now, where it is, I'm all for Fox. I'd like to see it on Fox. I think Fox would do a really good job, but two people have to agree.
All right.
Okay, so sign of things to come. We are pro-debate. We are pro-debate. We see what Kamala is capable of, and we think that this would be a wonderful time to expose Kamala, whether you expose Joe Biden. We feel like the dynamics are going to change quite a bit from the first debate, maybe a little nastier, but must-see TV for certain. Donald Trump turning up the heat on Kamala Harris in the same interview. Last clip, let's listen.
She was a border czar, which she doesn't admit it now. The only thing they have going is the media will play off all of the bad things that happened during her term. She was so bad that 5 weeks ago, they wanted to remove her because she was unthinkable to be president. They were going to go with anyone. And then they were afraid that they would offend people if they did that. And all of a sudden, inch by inch, and then she ends up taking over. Now the same press that thought she was the worst vice president in history, which is true, going along with the worst president in history. And he went down after the debate, and there was nothing much they could do. They tried to come back. Then they brought her in, and everybody said, it'll never be her. She's so bad. She's incompetent. And after they studied it a little bit, they realized it's not going to be so easy to do. So they say, well, look, the press is going to do whatever we want because the press is a rigged deal. The press is the media, outside of you people, of course, but the media is so they're trying to build her up to the next Margaret Thatcher liberal version, and I don't believe it's going to happen.
So Trump's right about that, but Trump's also right, I think, to call for this debate. I do. As much as Kamala Harris doesn't deserve, because she is illegitimately an installed candidate that didn't get a single vote, the American people do deserve to see the two candidates debate. You could argue the ethics of it. I look forward to doing that with Stephen Miller in just a moment. But here's what I personally believe. I personally believe Donald Trump, in the right setting, and even with no audience, because you saw this happen with Biden, can turn the entire room to his side. We saw this with the National Association of Black Journalists this week. You can see it in this clip here, the famous "Only Rosie O'Donnell."
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
No, it wasn't.
Come on. Playing the oldies. Remember when they decided not to give Donald Trump a giant arena to do that in, and they said, only friends and family. We're CNN. We're very serious. We're only friends and family, like 200 people each, packed in to this little, tight little auditorium. And then this happened.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton...
I know people that were in the audience that day, and they tell me that it was like a small, that roar you hear, it was like a tight, small little audience. And Trump was able to do that to Hillary, even given those constraints. And the final thing, ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump will be able to do this to Kamala Harris. An amazing, maybe not the most viral moment from 2016, but an incredible one nonetheless. Go.
And she could have done this years ago, by the way. She was a United States senator. She complains that Donald Trump took advantage of the tax code. Well, why didn't she change it? Why didn't you change it when you were a senator? The reason you didn't is that all your friends take the same advantage that I do. And I do. You have provisions in the tax code that, frankly, we could change. But you wouldn't change it because all of these people give you the money so you can take negative ads on Donald Trump.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is a perfect line of attack. This works now. Yo, I'm Donald Trump. I ran for office one time. I became president. Don't blame me for the problems of the country. You've been in public office your entire life. You don't like something that happened in the tax code? You're angry at the system? You are the system, lady. Right? Like, doesn't that work? It works perfectly. And it worked on Hillary. It was actually, while the one-liners were like, great, sizzle stuff, that's the stuff that makes people go, oh, yeah. Oh, wait a second. Kamala's been vice president for like 4 years to like a human meat puppet stump of a man. It's like been like natus fratu, like in a coffin the entire time. Maybe Kamala's the reason why this country's gone to hell. That's a great point. Wow, she's been in office for like 20 years, 30 years, her entire life. She's been power gobbling her way through office. Maybe I should blame her. So great line of attack, a person who's written the best lines for President Trump. Somebody who's written some of the finest Trump speeches and the best Trump policies, the man who's personally responsible for everything that you like about the first Trump term, and so much that you will love about the second Trump term. You need to pass it to find out what's inside of it. Is the great Stephen Miller, who joins the program live now. Stephen, you've been calling Kamala Harris an illegitimately installed candidate, saying that this is the most undemocratic thing that's ever happened in American history. I'd like to give you the floor here to just expound on that.
Yes, it's been the case for as long as we've had indoor electricity in this country that nominees have been chosen through a series of caucuses and primaries by the voters. It's true if you go way back in American history, back when senators were not elected by state vote. It's also true that there was a period in which parties operated strictly like corporations and crowned nominees. But again, ever since we've had the Model T, ever since we've had indoor electricity, ever since we've had widespread indoor plumbing, it has been the case that nominees have been chosen through a democratic process, through votes of the people. The idea that in the year 2024, that you would have party donors handpicking a nominee just days before the convention without even a single solitary state weighing in, a single solitary voter weighing in on that process, is the greatest concentration of power in the hands of donors in modern history. Just think about it for a second. If you are installed by donors, to whom is your loyalty? Your loyalty is to the people who installed you, the people who control you, the people who selected you, which means every single day, if she were to be in office, understanding the power of this machine, right? The power to launch a soft coup to get rid of Biden, the power to install her. From whom will she take orders? Who will be the real power in this country? It will be the people that extorted Biden from the race and the people that installed Kamala. Could you imagine a more dangerous thing for democracy, for national security, for national sovereignty, than to have an unseen force, unseen operators in the shadows, controlling secretly the president of the United States? That's the very real specter that we face today.
Yeah, and then also matched with the VP selection yesterday that I think surprised quite a few people. Most had odds on certainly the betting market, Josh Shapiro, and many people saying that because the Democrat Party has done a full shift towards the Hamas caucus. Of course, Governor Walz is a big fan of Ilhan Omar and celebrates the changing of the Minnesota state flag to effectively the Somali flag. I'm sure you have a thought on this, and since I have you on the show, I might as well ask your thoughts on the VP selection yesterday.
Yes, well, let's begin with a very simple counterfactual, which is inarguable. And like all true arguments, the truth of it will be clear immediately. If everything about the governor of Pennsylvania, Governor Shapiro, was identical, but you changed a single fact about his resume and biography, which is that he was not Jewish, the odds that Kamala would have selected him are 100%. He's the governor of a crucial swing state. He's a far more articulate speaker than Tim Walz. Everyone acknowledges, even people like myself who loathe and detest his record as a public servant, who thinks his policies are terrible, that he's vastly more gifted and vastly better at hiding and disguising his beliefs than Tim Walz. On every level, on paper, he's the choice, but for the fact that the Democrat Party can't stomach the idea of having a Jew as the number 2 on the ticket. So that's number 1. But let's talk about what was really going on with Walz beyond that fact. It represents the complete and total transformation of the Democrat Party into a Marxist party. Walz is a straight up commie. Yes, he tries to put on this ridiculous facade of some sort of friendly, folksy type packaging. It's a Kool-Aid label on a bottle of ideological cyanide. The job of Tim Walz is to try to put a friendly package on the assisted suicide of Western civilization. That's what he's there for. That's why he exists. See, if they appointed as the VP, say Rachel Maddow, everybody would say, oh, that's a catastrophically bad idea. Every single thing that Rachel Maddow believes, every single thing that the most radical left anchors on MSNBC believe, every single thing that Cori Bush believes, right? He believes, and believes even more fervently. But they think if they put on this ridiculous act that he's been carrying on for years, it will somehow fool people. But the record is the record. Stolen valor, tampons to underage boys, a law allowing the state to kidnap children to change their sex, to change their gender and hide it from parents. Support for free healthcare and driver's licenses for illegal aliens, embracing unlimited refugee resettlement, cheering on the Black Lives Matter riots while his own city burned to the ground. If you want to sum up the Walz agenda in a sentence, is this: he wants to turn the entire Midwest into Mogadishu. That's the plan. That's the whole plan. This guy's genuinely a whack job. He is a total whack job. And I hope that over the next coming weeks, the result of his appointment is that it opens the eyes of the whole nation to just how crazy and insane the Democrat Party has become.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to play the way they think. And some of the snap polling is showing that people are going, who and what? The guy who burned down Minneapolis, the guy who notified, who's his family notified Minneapolis rioters to where the National Guard was going. You were in the White House when this was happening. I couldn't believe it was real. We had to pull up the tweets yesterday. His daughter was tweeting out National Guard movements so that the looters could keep looting and could evade the American military.
I should romantically about inhaling the delightful aroma of a burning city. I mean,
that clip's real.
Right, it's real.
Yeah,
it's real. I mean, this is really it is so far beyond the pale of acceptable political thought. And you contrast this with J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance represents the down the middle center of American opinion on every single major public policy issue. Strong borders, no illegal immigration, stop outsourcing our jobs to China and low-wage countries, stop the stupid forever wars while maintaining American strength and hegemony, having a tax system that rewards workers, not cheaters. Everything that J.D. Vance stands for is where the American people are on all the major issues. And that as her running mate, she selected somebody from the communist wing, which is increasingly the overwhelmingly dominant wing. The Democrat Party today is a choice between leftists, communists, and socialists. And between those three options, she just decided, let's just go full communist. And one other thing that people are beginning to look into on the Walz record that I think is very important is that he signed into law, and I hope that you'll have a chance in the coming days to really dig into this on your show. He signed into law a bill that extended the state's human rights protections for sexual orientation to pedophiles. This is something that's been unearthed recently and has been exposed on X. But there was a law in Minnesota that created human rights based on sexual orientation. And in that law, it specifically said that those rights could not be extended to pedophiles. They rewrote that law to add in a bunch of other, genders, polygender, polyqueer, asexual, bigender, things like that. But they struck out the language specifically excluding pedophiles from these human rights protections. And then he signed that into law. Tampon Tim is not a well man, Benny. He is not a well man. He is a sick man. He is a man that does not respect the rights of parents to control the upbringing of their own children. And I shudder to think what a man who's that radical, that deranged would do near the highest levers of power in the whole U.S. government.
Yeah, that's right. We've seen what the installed candidate for president has done as border czar, and that's been the largest child smuggling and child trafficking operation in the history of mankind. Tim Walz is being cast as some type of Midwest moderate, but nonetheless, if you look at the actual, and we'll put them up on screen here, if you look at the county by county results, the entire state of Minnesota voted against him. He won like 4 counties, Stephen. You have here's the map, pop it up. He won 6 counties. That's it. In the entire state. The entire state votes against him. And he's being declared as some type of massive centrist when actually it's like the Ilhan Omar neighborhoods that carried this guy into office. She may lose her primary. Cori Bush just lost her primary. They've decided to double down on the most unpopular possible pillar of the Democrat Party. Maybe your thoughts on Cori Bush and your thoughts on like maps like this for Tim Walz.
Yeah, I mean the Cori Bush loss, of course, isn't surprising given how poorly she's hidden her own insanity. Again, the Walz game is to try to act normal while behaving in the most bizarre, abnormal, indefensible ways humanly imaginable. Again, like handing out tampons to boys in high school and not telling their moms and dads. I mean, what kind of person does that? I mean, really? I mean, you have to ask the question. And so, to your point about the map, yes, he has very narrow appeal, but I think it's also important to point he's never been nationally vetted. He's never been nationally vetted. And a lot of times these off-year elections, the midterm elections, don't get a huge amount of attention. Now, one race that did get an enormous amount of national attention in part because he was already a nationally known figure through his authorship of Hillbilly Elegy, film, and his very large national following already was J.D. Vance. So J.D. Vance already went through. It was one of the most high-profile Senate races, if not the most. In fact, it was the most high-profile Senate race in the whole country. So he had already gone through an extensive national vetting. And then he's been in the U.S. Senate at the forefront of every single major national policy debate over these last several years. So he's been vetted and re-vetted and vetted and vetted and vetted and vetted again for years now. Tim Walz has received zero national attention or scrutiny. And now the Democrat Party and the Harris campaign has to explain why he would hand out menstrual products to boys without telling their parents. Why he would sanction the state kidnapping children to perform sex changes. Why he would give driver's licenses and free tuition to illegal aliens. Why he would establish an office in his state for the sole purpose of giving out free handouts to refugees to bring unlimited tides of refugees into his state. They have to answer all of these questions now. They have to explain his stolen valor, and they have to explain, again, this new burgeoning scandal that people are just learning about as to how the human rights law was changed to extend protections to pedophiles in Minnesota. So all of this and more will have to be explained, which is why they're banking on never having to answer a single question between now and Election Day. And I'll just say, can you imagine what it would mean for our democracy to have an installed nominee who's never received a vote, to then install a socialist, communist wacko as a running mate, to then go all the way to Election Day without answering a single question from the media, relying entirely upon Act Blue donations, which is a whole separate conversation, to try to lie to the American people about their records. I mean, this is a really perilous moment for democracy, and we have to insist on total and radical transparency about Harris and Walz.
Stephen, I brought up the map of Minnesota because so many states look just like this. The entire state's red, and then there's like one massive dark blue dot, right? Particularly around a city where it's hard to track where votes are coming from and how the voting machines are working, and there's too many votes. And this is what screws Republicans all the time. And your organization is suing in Maricopa County. America First Legal sues Maricopa County, Arizona, for refusing to take action to stop illegal aliens from voting. This seems to be quite the strategy in 2024. Is it going to pay off for Democrats?
Yeah, so just switching gears here for a moment briefly, putting aside the campaign talk and just speaking to you now on behalf of the 501c3, America First Legal, non-citizen voting is an existential threat to American democracy. We know that in every single state, illegal aliens can vote simply by checking a box, self-decreeing that they're eligible to vote. That is the extent of the vetting that occurs, is you say you're eligible to vote, great, you're eligible to vote. However, there are requirements in law in various states to keep their voter rolls clean and to remove ineligible voters, including non-citizens. Arizona has such a requirement. So in other words, after people have registered, you're supposed to then run those names against databases to determine their eligibility. Maricopa County, despite a warning and notification from us, refused to take necessary and lawful action to remove illegal aliens and non-citizens from their voting rolls. As a result of that, we filed an urgent lawsuit to compel them to remove illegal aliens and non-citizens from their voting rolls.
There's been a massive victory in Maricopa County. Of course, your and my friend Charlie Kirk is there. Turning Point is located there. We have some people very connected to how this is all operating. And Stephen Richer just lost his election. There have been some good, and the county supervisor also has been somebody who has been replaced by what we believe is going to be very good, tough on election fraud candidates. Can you comment on Maricopa County? Is it swinging the right direction?
Well, we have another lawsuit also against Maricopa County for a whole series of significant state law violations in the administration of elections. This is actually our second lawsuit against Maricopa County. Maricopa County has been a hotbed for election malfeasance, misconduct, fraud, and just general gross violations of election security and election integrity to a shocking degree. So we're pursuing all the lawful remedies that we can. You mentioned there's obviously been a change in elected leadership in the administration of Maricopa County elections, although, of course, the change in actual administration doesn't happen right away. Yeah. And the concerns remain deep and pervasive. And I think everyone who lives in Arizona needs to insist that Maricopa County run a clean, honest election and support any and all efforts, whether it be from organizations like mine or efforts from Charlie Kirk, support any and all efforts to clean up the corrupt elections in Maricopa County.
Yes. Very quickly here, because I know we're running short on time. Donald Trump saying he's going to debate Kamala Harris. Good idea or bad idea?
Well, again, so now I'm going back to Stephen Miller, private citizen.
Yeah, please.
I believe that he is going to have a tremendous success side by side with Kamala Harris in exposing her radical record. It's all about her radical record, her incompetence, her failures, her time as border czar these last 4 years, everything that's happened to this country, from inflation to raging global wars to the destruction of the middle class to the decimation of our border and the complete unraveling of American society and the American dream and the American standard of living and the American way of life. So I think that it's a fantastic idea, knowing how rigged the whole system is, knowing how rigged every aspect of it's going to be, for him to have that opportunity to stand side by side with her and compare the marvelous success, triumph, and incredible achievement of the Trump years, stability, safety, harmony, and prosperity, to the hellish nightmare that we've been living in under Biden-Harris.
Do you agree with Kamala? We did do a poll yesterday, and we had tens of thousands of people voting.
There's so many nicknames.
They decided Kamala. Our audience said Kamala.
Lazy Kamala, Kooky Kamala. I mean, there's so many different directions that you can go. But the nickname that I'm really pushing right now, because it's so important to educate, as you mentioned, the whole American people, is Tampon Tim. Everybody needs to understand that one of the two major parties chose as its vice president a dude who gives tampons to middle school and high school boys and doesn't tell their moms and dads. That's who they went with. That's disqualifying.
Yeah, I got to tell you, the more people find out about it, and we're about to play some of J.D. Vance going in hard on stolen valor and on him as soon as his country wanted him to go fight a war, unlike going and serving like J.D. Vance. He said, I'm out, time to join the Democrat partisan political machine. I think that one also is going to stick. The more people find out about Tim Walz and Kamala Harris, the worse it is. That's why I think they did this 100 days to the election. Frankly, I think that's why they. I think that's why they did it. They planned this because they're like,
media speeds up time. So maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago takes months. In days now, you can expose the dark and horrible truth about the record and the history of Tim Walz.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you want that exposed for you, you must follow Stephen on X. 700,000 Americans follow Stephen on X. Get in there and get to the straight dish from the man who President Trump trusts to shake Xi Jinping's hand. You're probably asking him, hey, where did Tim Walz vacation? Because we know that he honeymooned in China. I know that's probably what you're asking Xi Jinping. The guy has a creepy love of China. He lived over there. He honeymooned there.
An hour just on that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, book it. Let's go. The producers are listening. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you. Talk soon.
Godspeed. That's true, right? That's true. Tim Walz vacationed or traveled to China every year since 1996. Why exactly? Even in 1996, China wasn't even open to the West. You must just love communism. So, legitimately, you must really like communism. If China is the place that you wish to go to chill out and relax. He honeymooned in China. Huh? Bernie Sanders honeymooned in Soviet Russia. It's crazy. It's crazy. Here's their weird walkout from yesterday. This was the Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, waltz out yesterday. The great reveal. Go. I heard that everybody who went to that event got a free chicken sandwich. So one of our team members, Ashley, lives in Philadelphia. She's like, I think that's what happened. We'll see. Is it real? Is it just a sugar high for these deeply unhealthy, mentally ill, depressed, super medicated individuals that make up the base of the Democrat Party? Also a reminder, this is like right in downtown center Philadelphia. There's a lot of ways to get, asses and seats in cities like that. And also, ALX, this is just coming to mind. Can you grab me that last time that Kamala was in Philadelphia? Like a month ago, Kamala did like a Blacks for Biden event in Philadelphia, and they couldn't fill like a high school gymnasium. They had to use one half of the basketball court to try and fill the high school gymnasium. It was super weird. So the comparison is wild. So, obviously something's flipped into high gear. We think, again, it is the media sugar hype. Here's what the delightful people inside of that, I think it's a basketball. It's like a local college basketball arena. Here's what they were greeted with last night.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening.
Tim Walz is weird. He's so weird, dude, man. He's a creepy guy. We didn't stream that last night. We're like, there's no way anybody's going to want to watch this. But we did see the clips, and it was like, I don't know. I'm getting really deep Obama vibes from this. And I say that as a bit of a warning because that system is strong, right? And you can just pop that up next to me. I see it loaded. Pop it up. I'm getting really deep Obama vibes. Because this was Kamala Harris, like in the same neighborhood. You can see there, this is Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is speaking at this event in the same neighborhood with Biden. This was in the summer. Was it a month ago? Was it 2 months ago? No matter what, it was like not too long ago, less than 60 days. This was the crowd that they had. This was the crowd they had. So what the hell's going on? Something happened, right? And what happened is the Ritalin and the medication is getting jammed into the soy-infused veins of the Democrat base to say, you could be part of a historic moment. For who? Doesn't matter. What's the vice president? Who cares? Okay, I want to be part of history. And these are the people. Like you can check on social media. You can see exactly who's down with this. Super low information, super smooth brain. Ladies and gentlemen, we are online all the time, keeping track of these kind of things and making sure that you are informed. The people who keep us powered to do that is, of course, you can hear it jangling around inside of the Benny Brigade mug here. Keep us powered is the sweet, sweet friends that we have at Blackout Coffee. These guys have been my what's the right way to say this? Like, I reach for them whenever I'm going in the studio. We got Blackout Coffee all over the studio. We got this mug that is filled, or sometimes empty, quite frankly. A lot of the time, we have hot Blackout Coffee in the studio. We have cold Blackout Coffee in the studio. It's good any way you like it, and it's very, very caffeinated. I don't know if it's more caffeinated than competitors, but it's very caffeinated. It gives us the power to fight the communists. Now, we've been saying it gives us the power to fight the commies for a long time. Is Joe Biden a commie? I don't know. I think Joe Biden's just a chameleon. But like Kamala Harris is a commie. Kamala is a commie. And Tim Walz is a commie. And so let's just use that energy, ladies and gentlemen, to win. Go to blackoutcoffee.com/Benny. Use the coupon code Benny for 20% off your first order. Blackoutcoffee.com/Benny. Be awake, not woke. Blackoutcoffee.com/Benny. Also available with our dear friends on Public Square. Here's Elon Musk. Kamala Harris is literally a communist. Okay, well, this just posted. Looks like this morning. Wow. Kamala Harris is literally a communist. She wants not merely equal opportunity, but equal outcomes. Yeah, hey, man, that's communism. That's communism. Maybe we can rip this clip and play it at the end of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, something we have to get to, two wonderful pieces of good news, is that J.D. Vance is finally fighting back. J.D. Vance has been kicked around quite a bit, which is, of course, what they were always going to do to no matter who Donald Trump picked. If it was Vivek, if it was Tulsi, they were going to find something. They have Oppo files on everybody. But J.D. Vance, like doing a preemptive attack on Tim Walz, talking about the military angle, which I think is extremely strong. The background on this is that Tim Walz was in the National Guard, and as soon as his National Guard unit gets called up to go to Iraq, he drops out. And there's a bunch of members of like his National Guard unit that are like, F that guy. He's a coward. He quit on us. He betrayed us in wartime, which is something you mustn't do. You can't do it. You can't like hang around and like be like, as soon as the going gets tough, bail. That makes you a bad person. Are you in the military? Are you part of like a sports team? Right? Are you part of a sports team? Are you part of like a family unit? Like, if you bail on your family when things get hard, that makes you a horrible and immoral person. So there are tightly knit groups of people that depend on you, and when things get tough and you're like, I'm out, that makes you a bad person. The people who actually took Tim Walz's spot going to Iraq are on the record talking about what an absolute garbage heap he is, and who are we to question the words of this military veteran? Have a listen.
He abandoned us. I mean, what the hell kind of leader does that? I mean, he just, as soon as the shots were fired in Iraq, he turned and ran the other way and hung his hat up and quit.
We'll get to Barron's new message for voters in a moment. But this all starts years earlier when Barron says Walz's misleading statements about his military service first led him to come forward in the fall of 2018.
So you try to get this message out, but Minnesota's largest newspaper checks it out, says it's 100% true, but yet refuses to print.
When I hung the phone up, I said, what the hell is this, North Korea?
Back in 2005, a warning order went out to the 1st Battalion, 125th Field Artillery to mobilize for a mission to Iraq. At the time, Walz served as the unit's highest non-commissioned officer, but months later, Walz would retire from the Guard, avoid the deployment, and run for Congress. Tom Barron was next in line for the position and was asked to take his place.
I was like, well, for Pete's sake, if this guy quit, and if I say I'm not going to do it, I mean, what the hell kind of leadership is that? If a company would say that we're going to deploy to Iraq or somewhere and you're going to be gone for whatever amount of time, and then the foreman just says, no, I'm not going. I mean, what does that say to the 500 people that work in that factory?
Barron would go on to serve in Iraq on a nearly 2-year deployment as a command sergeant major. All while Walz began using that title as a congressman. Barron says he first contacted Walz with his concerns, sending these letters to Washington. They all went unanswered.
But then we fast forward to the election in 2018 in Minnesota, and you try at that time to get people's attention with this story and also with what seems to be a very misleading statement that he continued to make about his service.
It kind of just sat there. When he was a congressman, he bragged that he was a retired command sergeant major. I'm the highest ranking person ever in the House, and all this lie that he was telling. The state of Minnesota came out after 2018, after this was exposed, and they said, well, he can say that he served as a command sergeant major, but he can't say he's a retired one because he's not.
And that's what he was saying.
And he was saying that, and there was lots of lots of cards coming in the mail, for him to be elected. They said right on there he's a retired command sergeant major, just tooting his own horn, just hanging on the coattails of people that actually are command sergeant majors that went through all the process and put all the time in.
I want to say this because it's really important for a topic like this, is that these military communities are incredibly tightly knit. I have multiple members of my family who deployed to Afghanistan, Iraq, who are still serving, multiple members of my family in law enforcement, direct members of my family. And I had to tell you, man, guys who do stuff like this are not seen, are not looked upon kindly by these communities who are there to bear the pressures of wartime. And that's the point of the military. And so people who saw the terrorist attacks on September 11th and then signed up for the Marines and went and deployed, who didn't need to voluntarily sign up, but were moved to do so to protect their nation, they're pretty pissed about this. And this is the tone change that's happening right now. J.D. Vance preemptively, a preemptive strike, you could call it, on Tim Walz, abandoning his post in order to go play partisan politics when the going got tough. Have a listen.
What really bothers me about Tim Walz as a Marine who served his country in uniform, when the United States Marine Corps, when the United States of America asked me to go to Iraq to serve my country, I did it. I did what they asked me to do it, and I did it honorably, and I'm very proud of that service. When Tim Walz was asked by his country to go to Iraq, you know what he did? He dropped out of the Army and allowed his unit to go without him, a fact that he's been criticized for aggressively by a lot of the people that he served with. I think it's shameful to prepare your unit to go to Iraq, to make a promise that you're going to follow through, and then to drop out right before you actually have.
You're gonna have the, you're gonna have to answer to that one, Tim. And there's a lot of people in the military and a lot of people who are military adjacent, like myself, who would like to hear the answer to that. Why was running for office suddenly so important? It's funny how there are so many cowards who served, or who didn't serve, and who are suddenly in command of this nation. You know, it's like you look through, Bill Clinton's a draft dodger, right? Like you have these people who didn't rise to the moment. And what was the last real veteran? What was the last true veteran president? Was it George H.W. Bush? Probably, right? George H.W. Bush actually went to war. The guy did World War II service, right? I think I'm correct on that. There's a lot of veterans in this nation, and they deserve to be represented, and they deserve to be treated better, quite frankly. J.D. Vance taking the gloves off, and I like the look. Watch.
Sir.
Last night, Governor Walz suggested that because of your Ivy League education and your Silicon backing your political career, that you yourself are part of the elite. What are your first impressions of them trying to frame you this way to the American public?
Well, look, I came from a family where nobody in my family had ever gone to law school. I grew up in a poor family. The fact that Tim Walz wants to turn it into a bad thing, that I actually worked myself through college, through law school, and made something myself. To me, that's the American dream. And if Tim Walz wants to insult it, I think that's frankly pretty bizarre. Now, look, what really bothers me about Tim Walz, it's not even the positions that he's taken, though certainly he has been a far left radical. You know what really bothers me about Tim Walz as a Marine who served his country in uniform? When the United States Marine Corps, when the United States of America asked me to go to Iraq to serve my country, I did it. I did what they asked me to do it, and I did it honorably, and I'm very proud of that service. When Tim Walz was asked by his country to go to Iraq, you know what he did? He dropped out of the Army and allowed his unit to go without him, a fact that he's been criticized for aggressively by a lot of the people that he served with. I think it's shameful to prepare your unit to go to Iraq, to make a promise that you're going to follow through, and then to drop out right before you actually have to go. I also think it's dishonest. Something, again, if you guys ever get an opportunity to ask Tim Walz or Kamala Harris some questions, he made this interesting comment that the Kamala Harris campaign put out there, and I bet they're regretting they put it out there now, because he said that and he was making a point about gun control, he said we shouldn't allow weapons that I used in war to be on America's streets. Well, I wonder, Tim Walz, when were you ever in war? What was this weapon that you carried into war, given that you abandoned your unit right before they went to Iraq, and he has not spent a day in a combat zone? What bothers me about Tim Walz is the stolen valor garbage. Do not pretend to be something that you're not. And if he wants to criticize me for getting an Ivy League education, I'm proud of the fact that my mamaw supported me, that I was able to make something of myself. I'd be ashamed if I was him and I lied about my military service like he did.
Holy moly. Bro. Bring that energy. Whoa. Yes. Okay. Into my veins. All right. Into my veins. You all know, if you watch this program, that I had favorites, and J.D. Vance was not one of my favorites for the VP selection. Doesn't mean I don't like him, but I saw some different. I saw some different potential with different candidates. Right, big time Vivek guy. I will admit, had a lot of fun with the jangling of the keys for will Tucker Carlson be the vice president selection. I think that'd be really fun, and I was totally down with that. But I got to tell you, like, this is the J.D. Vance that I think the country needs to see. J.D. Vance has probably like a 170 IQ and is smart enough to absorb and then flip around these attacks. And hopefully during the vice presidential debate, which I hope there is one, gets a chance to not cuck out like Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan was rolled. Why do you think Paul Ryan's such like an angry, vicious anti-Trump guy? Paul Ryan was rolled by Joe Biden in a debate. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? How can you even wake up in the morning? Paul Ryan lost to Joe Biden in a debate for vice presidency in the year 2012. How can you look yourself in the face? How will you ever be able to call yourself a man ever again? Joe Biden pistol whipped Paul Ryan. Did quite a job, quite a number on Paul Ryan in the debate in 2012. So yeah, like, shut up, right? And also, Kamala Harris debated Mike Pence, and I think that's instructive. Mike Pence had a fly in his hair the entire time, and so, you know, none of that, right? Like, none of that. Kamala Harris did the whole, like, I'm speaking thing. Very instructive. Maybe we should go back and watch the Kamala Harris fight, Mike Pence debates. Really weird. There was, like, plexiglass in front of them. It was very strange times. COVID, like, plexiglass. They were, like, 70 feet apart from each other. Could barely hear each other. The flies were flying. Whatever. Who knew? Who knows? Crazy times that we've lived through. However, is the country healing? Cori Bush lost her primary. She lost to a Democrat. It's not like a Republican's going to flip that seat, sadly, because the seat is once again a like little blue pebble in the most atrocious parts of St. Louis, which are legitimately like a bombed out third world hellscape. I've gone there. But Cori Bush did lose her race last night, and she lost by a lot. She got blown out. Lost by, I think, close to 10 points, like 8 points, 7 points. So, wonderful. That's great. I think that the guy who's replacing her will probably not be voting with Republicans, but Cori Bush is a horribly nasty, awful person and is just a criminal. She's being investigated by the DOJ because when calling for defund the police, Cori Bush was paying her husband hundreds of thousands of dollars to act as her private security on the backs of the taxpayer. Got it? And it was her boyfriend at the time, not her husband. So, yeah, this is no fun. Cori Bush having a real one, melting down and into a screaming tirade on TV, and AOC crying. All in the same clip. Here we go.
Bush is now the second squad member to lose their primary after Congressman Jamal Bowman suffered a similar loss to a pro-Israel Democrat in New York. But the soon-to-be former Congresswoman says she's not going anywhere.
AIPAC, I'm coming to tear your kingdom down. And let me put all of these corporations on notice. I'm coming after you too. We will keep supporting a free Palestine, a free Congo, a free Sudan, and keep opposing genocide and human rights abuses worldwide.
And just a few moments ago, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a fellow squad member, responded to Bush's defeat.
There is an enormous amount of influence of big money in politics. Cori Bush's race was the second most expensive primary in American history. Jamal Bowman's race was the most expensive primary in American history, and all of that money was spent against them.
Yeah, not a great time to be a member of the squad. Ilhan Omar is up for election, primary election in Minnesota. Come on, Minnesota. This will be next week. Minnesota! It'll be next week. So this will be interesting to watch. I know that these people are being replaced by Democrats. They're not being replaced by Republicans. That would be better. But nonetheless, they are losing, and they are repulsive creatures. And so that's a good thing. We can tip our hat to that. We're also friends with the McCloskeys. Remember the McCloskeys that held the held up their AR-15s, right, outside of their house while BLM was trying to like terrorize their neighborhood. We're friends with them. Like, we've done work with them. We've done like a documentary on them, and they're awesome. And they're celebrating all of this. They're like really happy because Cori Bush was one of the people that led that parade through their neyborhood, right? That was attacking people and like leading BLM to like terrorize their neighborhood. So, ladies and gentlemen, boom. Here's your energy right here. Let's just keep them on screen. Let's do it. This is like legend mode here. The McCloskeys. What a world, man. Time flies. This was like what, like less than 4 years ago? It's wild. Maybe exactly 4 years ago. Crazy. Well, they're very happy, so pour one out for the McCloskeys today. Cori Bush is gone, boy, gone. If you want to support our work here, please sign up for the Benny Brigade. Please give us just a little extra pep in our step for the work that we are doing here. It costs $5 a month to be a member of the Benny Brigade. You can go to BennyJohnson.com and sign up today. A bunch of exclusive members-only chats, Ask Benny questions, and we're unveiling a bunch of new and awesome perks for the Benny Brigade in the coming weeks and months. And so we're very excited about that. You did hear yesterday that Donald Trump's press secretary said that we can stream with Donald Trump. Know what's up, okay? Know what's up. We will be going to the DNC convention in 2 weeks, so that will be very exciting. A bunch of behind-the-scenes content there for the Brigade. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a lot of fun. DNC denied us credentials, and we shall not be denied, as it were. Ladies and gentlemen, Psalms 32 for our verse of the day. Many sorrows come to the wicked, but unfailing love surrounds those who trust in the Lord. There are many sorrows that come to the wicked. Tim Walz is 60 years old. Kamala Harris is 60 years old. Bro, have you seen these Kamala Harris in bad lighting shots? She looks rough. You seen Tim Walz? Look at how old, look at how unbelievably old that guy looks. He's 60. He's only 60. Brad Pitt's 60 years old, right? Tom Cruise is in his 60s. And evil and wickedness ages you. Sorrows come to the wicked. The unfailing love surrounds those who trust in the Lord. And that's where our trust is. We carry on and we say, you know what? It's not about one election. It's not about one party. It's not about one candidate. Okay? It's about God's plan for our life. And all of this stuff is going to fade away. Also, we live inside of a broken world that is overcome with evil. And the only way to overcome evil is with salt, light, good, through the power of Christ, because Christ is king. And so that's what keeps us going, baby. The thing that would be the opposite, though, of all of this would be communism. And I only say this because I teased that Elon Musk tweeted that Kamala is a commie, and we do have the video that he tweeted here. And I will say that not only does communism seek to persecute the church and seek to destroy the church because it preaches that there's a power that is higher than the government. That is why Karl Marx, you got to study this stuff, and I'm no expert, but Karl Marx writes in the first page of the Communist Manifesto, he writes, the things we must destroy is the nuclear family and the church, right? Then capitalism. Communism is actually just an anti-Christian, anti-religious screed for disgusting slobs. Disgusting slobs that hate themselves. That's what Karl Marx was, and that's what the communists of today are. But the communists of today are running for president. It's an evil ideology. It's an ideology that obviously is set for persecution, and that also doesn't view you as an immaculate. It doesn't view you as somebody who is precious to God and unique in your own skills and attributes and what's been given to you and will be judged individually. It only views the collective whole and what the collective whole must do. And you have to be punched into a number, and you are meaningless inside of that system. Go ask people who are part of the Great Leap Forward in China. You've heard of the gulags, you've heard of the Holocaust. Have you heard of the greatest slaughter of a nation's innocent people in all history, which is the great leap forward of Mao's China, when he just starved half the country to death, led to the death of like 60 million people in China. Yeah, it's bad. That's what happens when you don't have the spark of God in you, when you don't value human life, and when you persecute the church and the things that actually connect us to the divine. So that's why this stuff's important. And it's also why we talk about it. Ladies and gentlemen, to send us out today, here's the clip that Elon Musk posted, and we will see you tomorrow.
It has to be about a goal of saying everybody should end up in the same place. And since we didn't start in the same place, some folks might need more. Equitable distribution. Giving resources based on equity, understanding that we fight for equality, but we also need to fight for equity, understanding not everyone starts out at the same place. So there's a big difference between equality and equity. Equality suggests often everybody should get the same thing. Well, that often assumes everybody started out in the same place, as opposed to equity, which is everyone should end up in the same place. And if you then understand not everybody started out in the same place, you understand some people need more. So we all end up in the same place, right? We are proud of the fact that equity is one of our guiding principles. Proud of the fact that we understand equality is important, but not everybody starts out on the same base. We see that people in our country are having an experience that is not equal. So when we talk about the work we are doing here together, it is recognizing that and being guided by this principle of what we must do in the spirit and in the interest of equity. To put equity firmly at the center of our economic policy. But no, if you look at the reality of who will benefit from certain policies, when you take into account that they're not starting at the same place and they're not starting on equal footing, it will directly benefit Black children, Black families, Black homeowners.
Where the truth gon' be, faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to life. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade, cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to life. Liberty to light, bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light, bringing liberty to life. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade, cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to life. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light.